Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna talk about and I'm gonna show you the oldest orchid, the first orchid that I ever had and the oldest orchid in this room at this moment. Now, this is a Phalaenopsis. Obviously, I started out with Phalaenopsis and I didn't used to have it. My mom brought it actually, and it's a keiki of the original if I'm not mistaken, but it is the very first orchid that started it all. Now you might wonder why I didn't keep it with me, why I don't still have it, why I left it home pretty much. Well, you know how I'm all about the sentimental value? Well, this one didn't have the greatest sentimental value, to be fully honest. I received this one and it didn't mean too much to me really, but now it does have sentimental value because for the past 6 years, my mom has taken care of it. This is a keiki. So it completely shifted a little bit in my mind. And she brought it to me because it's just nice to have the orchid that started it all. So today we're gonna repot it. It is bare rooted, I think. Yeah, it is. It does need some potting and some watering because it's starting to get slightly dehydrated. So I'm gonna take you along and we're just gonna talk a little bit about it and I guess tell you a little bit about how I started with orchids. I did tell you this story many years ago, but I'm pretty sure most of you here right now are newer viewers. So with that said, before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it. It really helps it out. Why not subscribe? It is free and I post multiple times a week. I'm going through a bit of a busy period, so bear with me about a month or so. Generally speaking, I do post quite a lot. But if you're feeling extra about it, consider further supporting the channel by using the affiliate links down below in the description, by becoming a member or checking out the merch, or just using the super thanks option down below my videos. Righty then, let us get to work. I just want to remove this bag from the roots. We talked about packing orchids and shipping orchids recently. If you missed that video, I'll link it to it down below. And one of the ways in which I told you you can ship orchids, and particularly if they're bare rooted, is by placing the root system only in a bag, a plastic bag, because that will keep in a little bit more moisture to the roots. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what my mom did. And this was a little wet. So the orchid had just a little bit of moisture around the root system. That is what we want. We do not want the entire orchid to be moist, but the roots absolutely fine. And if it's bare rooted, all the better. It can keep it a little bit more hydrated. Look at that. Very nice root system, right? Alrighty then, so I'm gonna go get some materials and everything that I need, and we're gonna start with the story. Alrighty then, so this orchid is actually around 14 years old, 15, 14, I don't exactly remember, but around there, in between 14 and 15 years old. And believe it or not, there was a time when I was not together with my current fiance, future husband. It is hard to imagine for me too, because for the past 12 years we have been together, but there was a land before time, let's put it like that. And well, back then I had the misfortune of having pretty bad relationships, pretty toxic relationships. It wasn't good. But one of these guys that I was with at the time gifted me for my name day an orchid, this orchid. A few days later we broke up, but the orchid was not returned. I kept the orchid because, believe it or not, I actually did really like it. I didn't like the whole circumstance of it, but I liked the orchid. Now, I can swear that when I received this orchid, it was white. It was a typical white Phalaenopsis. But then the whole thing happened and I really got some, not so nice feelings about it, and I kind of left it with mom. She was with mom from the very beginning. And for a while, it stayed with mom because I was not living home, I was renting, and I started another relationship. That's a whole different story, but I wasn't home. My mom was taking care of this orchid. Oh no. Oh, she has too big of a root system. I need a different pot. Hold on. All right, this looks much better. So while I was away, I left this orchid with mom, but I really liked orchids. So in the meantime, I did purchase myself another white orchid. Also, I received from somebody else, a family acquaintance, I received another orchid again for my birthday. So I had a collection of 2 or 3 orchids that I kept with me wherever I was going, wherever I was renting, but not this one. Mom, having an innate green thumb, actually managed to bloom it. And surprise, surprise, When it bloomed, it wasn't white anymore. It was slightly yellowish. My mom nicknamed her Vanilla because it has that, I guess, portrayed vanilla color. Not necessarily like the vanilla color, but whenever you see a buttery white color on a flower, be it a Cymbidium or Phalaenopsis, they put the name Vanilla under it, right? So that's why her name is Vanilla. But ever since then, she never rebloomed white again. And I do believe at the beginning of my YouTube channel, I talked about her. I'll try to find those videos, but they're so old at this point, I don't even remember what I filmed 10 years ago. But anyway, when it rebloomed, it wasn't white anymore. That was very surprising. Back then, I really wasn't all that knowledgeable with orchids. I didn't know that many orchids actually can color shift depending on environment or depending on their genetics and so on. But yeah, that happened and Mom thought it was very, very interesting. I didn't necessarily think it was interesting enough to get it, but anyway. Now, after a couple of years or so of me renting and doing life alone and things of the sorts and having, again, all sorts of disappointments in my life, I decided to return back home. And one of the first things that I did when I returned back home was get more orchids because I was already really into orchids. And one of my biggest grievances in my past failed relationship was that I was not quote unquote allowed to get things for myself because I needed to pay the rent, because I needed to prioritize other things except myself. So as a sort of a payback to my former life, I decided to buy a lot of orchids. Hence, when I started my YouTube channel, my very first video was an orchid collection. Many of them were pretty newish. Some of them were like a year old in my collection. But within that year, I decided to collect a lot just to get revenge, just to feel like I was doing something that I wanted. And orchids allowed me to do that. I'm not the type of girl that likes too much jewelry or bags or fashion. I don't have a sense of fashion, you know. My collection or my vice, I guess, are orchids. But it's exactly like collecting purses or high heels or things of the sorts. I just don't have a sense of fashion. If I had a sense of fashion, probably I would have more jewelry and high heels, I guess. I don't know. By the way, let me just tell you what I'm doing here. I'm using my favorite setup at the moment for this environment, which is full sphagnum moss in the pot and then a top layer of bark to prevent and actually completely eliminate cyanobacteria. It's the typical thing that I always do, and I will link you to another repotting which focuses more on repotting than on my storytelling. I'll link it to it down below. But anyway, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm packing it very, very slowly because I'm storytelling, but I'm making it very fluffy, very light. I'm not pushing it down. All I want is for the strands to retain water. It doesn't matter if they retain air pockets that are quite chunky as well. It's moss, it's allowed. I want airiness because, as you can see, we don't have ventilation holes either. But guess what? I get away with it in this climate. Many people don't get away. So don't copy this without knowing what you're doing. It's just something that fits me. Stick to my orchid care for beginner tutorials because those are geared for more of a wider audience. I live in a very weird, not weird, but very hot climate. Anyway, back to my story. So when I came back, I had all of that balcony for myself. And I took back this orchid as well, the Vanilla, because, you know, bad memories aside, it was a beautiful orchid. It was changing colors and my mom grew it. It was starting to shift, you know? So I had it, and I do believe I made a video on it as well. Is it my first ever video on an orchid that changed colors? It could be. So I'm gonna try to search for that video like that. I readopted my Vanilla orchid. It's not fragrant, by the way. It's just a typical flower shop Phalaenopsis. It has gone through the spider mite situation, through all of my learning curve, let's say, with orchids, and all of the pests that I've ever had. I'm not sure if snails never actually attacked Phalaenopsis for me. They attacked other plants. But anyway, it went through a lot. This keiki has some battle wounds, as you can see. I guess from mites, but Mom took care of it. She looks very beautiful now. The thing is, it didn't make the trip because I had to be a little bit more selective with the plants that I was gonna take. I had a lot of orchids. I just didn't want to take orchids that weren't really super special to me. And I didn't take her with me. I left it with Mom because Mom took care of it anyway initially, and again because, you know, memories. So I left it with her. She took care of it. Every time she bloomed, my mom sent me pictures of her. She bloomed vanilla-ish colored, never white again. And now mom said, you know what? How about I bring you a keiki? It made a keiki. Do you want a keiki? You want to have your first orchid? And I said, you know what? Sure, why not? Actually, spoilers, mom brought me a few more orchids that I'm gonna repot next week or this week, depending when I'm gonna upload this video. So I'm gonna show you some older orchids you might have forgotten on my channel that I left home. I have them. But I said, you know what? Okay, bring me the vanilla because it's cleansed. It's a keiki anyway. It's cleansed of the bad mojo. So bring it and I'm gonna take care of it because it's my very first orchid. And I guess easy to say, the orchid that started it all. Hopefully you're not bothered by the noise outside. I'm doing something very dangerous today and keeping the windows open. And we'll see how long we go before I have to close them due to the noise. But we're gonna try it. I woke up very gutsy today. So yeah. So this is the story of my orchid, the vanilla. I have no idea what it is. I have never seen one like her ever since. So in this way, she is special. I am curious to see how she blooms in this climate. I am adding slow release fertilizer. I list the products that I use typically down below in the description. You just have to scroll all the way down. Some of you say, no, you don't list it in the description. Scroll lower, lower. Just go until you can't scroll anymore. It's there. That's where I list them. And they're always there because it's an upload template. They're there for the past at least 1 year or so. So I'm very curious to see how she decides to bloom in this climate. What if she reverts back to white? I hope not, but she might. And so kids, this is how I got into orchids. Pretty much like everybody else. We had a Phalaenopsis, we liked it, we branched out. Oh, when I heard there's an orchid that smells like chocolate, oh, I was hooked. I could not. And a year or two later, I did actually obtain the Cherry Baby as well, which is the orchid that smells like chocolate. But most of us, I'm pretty sure, start out with Phalaenopsis. Let me know in the comments, what was your first orchid? I'm sure some of you started with something else, but in Romania at the time you could only find Phalaenopsis. Like 15 years ago, that's the only thing. And then with the rise of home improvement stores and stuff, they started to bring other very interesting stuff like Dendrobium Phalaenopsis and Oncidiums. And very, very, very rarely Cattleyas, but very rarely. So I'm going to do my best to keep her in check. I don't currently own a lot of flower shop big Phalaenopsis because after so many years, you kind of have seen them all. As many varieties as they are, I did have at some point a total of 70. Am I wrong? No, I think I had that many. So I've kind of seen most of the interesting stuff at the flower shop, unless we have a very special hybrid, which, you know, as years go by, they do appear. You know, I don't keep flower shop Phalaenopsis anymore because they're just not interesting enough for me. I'm more into Cattleyas because they're fragrant. These Phalaenopsis are not typically fragrant, the Polychilus are, but those are not complex hybrids and they do not belong in European flower shops because they don't produce a lot of flowers. So since I don't have a lot of flower shop phals, this will be a great addition. And yeah, stay tuned for winter, or actually spring, to see how this one blooms. I really hope that I can find some pictures to show you how it used to look like. I vaguely remember putting her in a thumbnail, so if I go by thumbnails in my oldest videos, maybe I'll find her. If I don't, you know, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But yeah, this is my oldest orchid returned to me. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'm curious to know, what's your origin story? How did you start up with orchids? Because this is mine. Not very interesting or with plot twists, but it was more of a spite or revenge thing. Or actually no, it's just I felt like I was doing something for myself that I wasn't allowed to do in the past. I guess that's the best way to put it, and it grew from there. So tell me your story, I'm curious to know. And for today, that is about it. I gotta run, I have errands to do. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry for the messed up schedule. It's gonna take a while since I have relatives over and the wedding and everything. But yeah, maybe I can share with you some pictures of the floral arrangements and stuff. That would be cute to see, right? But yeah, bear with me in the next month. I will see you next time, whenever that next time would be. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you get notified when a new video is up, or check out my second channel. The chaotic upload is there too, don't worry. But yeah, check it out for aquarium videos. And for orchid videos and other plants maybe, I think I'm gonna put it all on this channel and switch the other channel to aquariums. I don't know. We're gonna see. But for today, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.